the #2 market for Brooklyn Brewery outside of New York City itself is, in fact, Sweden. I don't know why I bring that up. I think it's just like it's a really weird, strange Brooklyn facts. And as we travel around, you see influences, whether from England, as you'll see in some of the later beers, in this case from Belgium, moving through American beers into other places, sometimes directly, sometimes through us. So when Local 2 first started showing up in places like Brazil, where, that basically came from the fact that I have good friends down in Brazil, and they were beer people, and things happen. But now you're starting to see more and more of a Belgian influence in Brazil, and for many people, their first Belgian beer, will have been Local 1 or Local 2.
Nice.
For us, these beers, were, really the start of kind of a new life for the brewery. Well, first of all, you see bottles like this, a lot, around breweries. People often ask, why did you put the beer in a champagne bottle? So if you don't remember so much else from what I tell you this evening, I do want you to remember this. This is a beer bottle. This was always a beer bottle. Champagne is in a beer bottle. The whole point of champagne was to take a thin, acidic, fairly undrinkable wine from northern France and make it into something, nice. They did a good job. They also have much better PR than we do, because this became known as a champagne bottle later, when the entire technique for making champagne comes entirely from beer. How to make something sparkling? Well, wine is a flat beverage. The thing is that champagne, by and large, is a cocktail. It's not really a straight wine. Almost every champagne, 99.8% of champagnes, have a quite notable amount of sugar added at the end of the process to sweeten it, because you're so far north in France, they can't get a lot of fruit character out of the grapes. This is changing a little with global warming, so we'll check back in 5 years. Well, they're starting to make okay sparkling wines in the southern coast of England, so things are getting weird. But basically the idea is the same. Take the wine, or in this case the beer. We add some extra sugar. We add some new yeast, and we close the bottle, and we re-ferment in the bottle. Now in the champagne process, what they'll do is that bottle will be stored upside down, and they'll turn it, 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 until all the yeast settles down here, and they'll freeze that yeast plug over here, expel that, turn it over quickly, you've lost some wine, and then add what's called the dosage, a mixture of wine and sugar that finishes the wine off. This is called the méthode champenoise. Here we use the méthode brooklynaise. The méthode brooklynaise does not require the addition of any sugar, except as a priming sugar, which is where we get all the carbonation. This is one of the few beers you'll see in a bottle with a cork in it that actually is 100% bottle condition, meaning bottled absolutely flat. Relatively rare now, even in Belgium. So as we, in this case, we do re-ferment with Prix de Mousse, which is the premier yeast, which is used for re-fermenting champagne, often referred to as champagne yeast. The Belgian candy sugar syrup, some of the Tremblay Farms honey, a little bit of sweet orange peel, all of these combine into a beer, which is in many ways relatively austere, until it starts to warm up. It doesn't really, and that's why we pulled it out a little bit early, it doesn't start to show all of its complexities. Even now it's a little chilly, but you'll see as you sort of get further in the glass, that raisiny sort of quality that comes out of the cane sugar syrup, which has a very particular flavor, reminiscent a little bit of that burnt surface of a creme brulee, might remind you a little bit of raisins here, a nice floral lilt there, and a little bit of citrus. Super dry. Whatever sweetness you might feel on your tongue is really coming not from residual sugar, but instead from strength, and also from fruity characteristics. And this is a good time to kind of point out to you. Now, you may have noticed the board over here, but I want to point out to those of you who need to get somewhere later, like home, or get up at some point in the morning and do something and be relatively effective. It's not that we don't love our regular beers, but those are not the beers that we sent you this evening, and so these beers are really strong. And it is worth paying attention to that, because our beers are really sneaky. Meaning that they will walk up behind you and go, "Ugh," if you're not careful. So this beer is 9%, and you may not taste it, believe you me, it is 9%. We have a bunch of big beers. So I'm just telling everybody, just, take it a little bit easy. We've got, we started off with, Sriracha, well, we started nice and easy with 4.8, but Sriracha Ace is, over 7, Bamboozle is over 8, this is 9, Blast is 8.2, so, we're at the higher register of things. This is not unusual for a beer dinner, bringing out, some of our big fun things, but, you should maybe treat this like it was a glass of wine, at least when it comes, to that regard. I hope you're going to enjoy it. We've got some beautiful. Now I have to say, look at the second course, chicken fried head terrine. I swear to God, the first time I read this, I thought it said, fried chicken head terrine. I read it like 3 times. Even when I came to death, I picked it up and I saw fried chicken head terrine. I don't know what it is about those 4 words that rearrange themselves in my head.
You still say number 2 though with it?
Yeah, I still would. But chicken fried pork head terrine with a green tomato jam. I think this got the dryness to work. And if you ever decide to serve the fried chicken head terrine, I'm totally down.